All right, so we left it off where we were able to scrape a page that was loaded synchronously to any request. So if I click on something, the page loads, it reloads, the browser reloads, all that stuff. That's a synchronous request. An asynchronous request, on the other hand, is something that loads typically through JavaScript using what's called AJAX. So it's an asynchronous request to the server, which means that it loads dynamically. It's similar to like if you're on YouTube and you click the subscribe button, like on joincfe.com/YouTube. You click on that subscribe button, it has an asynchronous request, assuming you're logged in. That's also true for a lot of things that we have on our site as well, but what you want to see is using these asynchronous requests and how do you actually scrape data from it. And a really good example of this is Chris Burkhart's website. This is a very talented photographer whom I admire his work a lot. I would say that what we're doing here is really for educational purposes. I do not advocate just stealing an artist's work. In this case, it's just because he has such a perfect site to learn and understand about this, at least at this time. And of course, if you're watching this, if for some reason his site changed or this functionality changed, the idea here will still hold. So what we do, you can definitely still try on other sites. So what we're going to be doing is, instead of scraping data, we're going to actually scrape images. We're going to get direct images like the slideshow that you see working here. I must say that this is not going to work for all slideshows. It's not going to work for every sort of animation that's working here. That's not really the point. The point is, when I refresh this page, it loads, and then it's loading, and now it's still loading more stuff. Notice that it wasn't completely loaded all at once. That was all JavaScript related, and that's how it's working. And if I inspect the element here, or the page, we can see that a lot of things are changing on a regular, as the time is going by, things are changing. So I refresh again, see how it is, and it's loading all that stuff in. That's kind of the point. That's what we're going to be working on here. It has nothing to do with scraping from a slideshow. Well, that's not the goal here. The goal is to scrape from something that's using JavaScript and using AJAX versus using just a regular request. So what would this look like if we did the intuitive thing, which was using Python requests and Beautiful Soup specifically for this URL? Well, let's go ahead and jump into our Sublime Text. We're going to create a new document in here. So Command N is the shortcut for that. And of course, I'm going to save this into our project where we have on our desktop inside of Scrape. We have it in here, and I'm going to make a new folder in here, call it 25, and we'll call it js_scrape.py. Okay, so in here, this is what we're going to be doing it. We should already have a lot of these things imported. I'm going to go ahead and show the sidebar so it just comes in a little bit. All right, so we're going to go ahead and import requests. This is nothing new. This is from the previous days of everything that we've done so far in web scraping. And then we go ahead and import Beautiful Soup. And then we are going to set our URL. And I'm making our URL to chrisburkhardt.com. Coming back in here, I just copied that whole thing. And then we're going to do a web request. I'm just calling the variable web_r. Of course, it's an arbitrary variable that we named there. And I'll do request.get URL. And then we're going to do web soup equals to Beautiful Soup. And this is going to be webr.text. And we're going to be using the HTML parser. Oops, I needed a comma there. So HTML.parser. And then we are just going to go ahead and print out websoup.findAll. And I'm going to do img. So img, of course, is the image tag. So in HTML, it is img source and then equals to some web source, right? So that's the actual HTML tag that we're calling here. That's what we want. All right, so now that I've got this, let's go ahead and jump into my terminal. Let's make sure that I have everything installed by doing pip freeze. And I see that I have Beautiful Soups and request installed, so I can actually run this. But I'm going to go ahead and do it inside of the 25 folder, and we're going to clear this out. And I'm just going to run Python. Of course, we're using Python 3.5 here, and I'm going to go ahead and import all of this stuff. What we see as a result, we have some images coming here. There's only a few images, And if we did a bunch of background research on this, that is, if we went through the source itself, it's probably not going to have only a couple images. That is, especially when we inspect it, maybe seeing the view source, it won't only have one or two, but like as we see here, there's not that many. So let's actually just look at the length of this. If I just did ln of the length of this whole thing, I could find out how many images there are, and there's only 4. That doesn't seem right. In fact, it's not. As we've been talking, there's been more than 4 that have come up. Like his logo is an image. All of these down here are probably images too. So we actually need to figure out how we're going to actually grab all this stuff. But the main thing isn't grabbing all of the images. That's not the goal. The goal is just to kind of use our intuition to see that, hey, this is JavaScript. We need to do something different. And the thing that we're going to be doing different, instead of using Python requests solely, we're going to use something called Selenium. Selenium is a Python library or package that allows us to run a web driver. So this means that we can run something like Firefox or Chrome to actually run a web page and do all the things that we expect a web page to do. Where Python requests is not like that. There might be something that you can actually do for Python requests, like what we're about to, but in my research, Selenium was the best choice for what we're about to do. So basically what we're doing is we're going to be opening up Firefox through Selenium. So Selenium is going to open up Firefox, and Firefox, of course, is a browser that you're going to want to download if you don't have it downloaded already. So definitely download Firefox so this can work. And Windows users, I think it might be just slightly different for you, but I also think that pip should work. If it doesn't, definitely check out the documentation here. This is fairly straightforward on what you need to do. If there are people that are having trouble still, please let us know in the comments below. And all of you Windows users, please comment together so then we know that this has been a little bit of a challenge for Windows users. But what we're about to do shouldn't be a challenge. It should work just fine. So we're going to go ahead and install Selenium with just pip install Selenium. And oops, I want to exit out of Python first. So I'm going to clear this out. We're going to install Selenium. And now what I want to do is actually run the HTML in a different way. So right here is the HTML text, right? So that's actually getting the HTML that we worked with. More specifically, webr.text is the actual HTML, right? So we could print that out if we wanted. But what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to now use the WebDriver from Selenium to actually open up Firefox, and then we're going to open up a URL, which is this same URL, and then we're going to see what that document is by executing a JavaScript script or a script statement as to what we want to see. So let's go ahead and do driver equals to WebDriver.Firefox. Not Xfox, but just Firefox, WebDriver.Firefox. Well, oops, I need to import Selenium first. So from Selenium, import WebDriver. And we're going to actually bring this up to the top here. So we've got our Firefox WebDriver here. And let's actually see what this does. I'm going to go ahead and just import it. And of course, I need to jump into Python. And let's go ahead and import it. And let's run that driver. Let's see what happens. So we've got nothing called Firefox. So let's try that one more time with the F, the second F, lowercase, because I think that's actually how Firefox spells it. And we try it again. This time I see that it loaded, and notice that Firefox actually opened. There's no web address, there's nothing there, but Firefox is open. So let's actually add a web address. So I'll do driver.get. Notice it's get, just like a GET request would be. And I'm going to do http://www. And I'll just do codingforentrepreneurs.com/ and we'll go ahead and press enter. Notice the browser changed, right? So Selenium is doing this browser for us. It's actually going to our website and it's showing us what's going on in that browser. Now that's not what we want. We want to not use Coding for Entrepreneurs. Instead, we are going to use Chris Burkhardt, like I said. Coding for Entrepreneurs is also using JavaScript at this time, but we're going to go ahead and do something that's probably a little bit more pretty than what we've got. So let's go ahead and open up Chris Burkhardt's website. Notice how it's loaded. It's loading in the background. It is running from Python. So this is another way on how you can actually run a browser from Python, which is actually pretty cool. So that means you can do all sorts of stuff here as well. And again, notice how I'm just writing in code, but as you can see, you can run functions, you can do all sorts of things to actually make your browser be a little bit different. So if you're a business and you want to have your website running a certain way, you could build a Python function that actually does it, and this is how you would do it. Anyway, so let's get back to the task at hand. I'm going to go ahead and open up the HTML here. So I want to say HTML is equal to driver.execute script. And I'm actually going to write the actual script on our page here so we don't actually have to type it out. I also want to make it so you guys can definitely go ahead and copy this. But it's really simple. It's return document.documentElement.outer HTML. So what that's doing is it's a JavaScript call to get the document HTML. So the HTML document that's related to the JavaScript. So that's actually what it is. So let's go ahead and I'm just going to press enter there. And we're just going to go ahead and copy this now. And if I press enter, that should be fine. Notice we're still using driver here. Driver is the same thing right here because we set that variable. If you changed the driver variable, that's fine. You can absolutely do that. There's nothing wrong with that. But now that we've got this HTML, I can actually type out HTML, and I see that I have the open HTML tags, and I can scroll all the way to the top and see the other HTML. So now that I have HTML, what can I do? Well, I can use Beautiful Soup again. So I'm going to go ahead and now say PySoup, as in Python is now driving this instead of the Python request. It's now actually Selenium, so let's call it Soup. And I'll go ahead and use this HTML now, paste that in here, and I'll use Soup in here. We want to make sure that we import these other things as well. So I imported Beautiful Soup back, and let's get Soup in here. And just like what we did before with the images, we're doing the exact same thing. I'm just going to go ahead and copy this one. Find all images, press enter. Oops, it's not Web Soup anymore. Let's go ahead and bring it down as Soup. And we try that one more time. And there we go. We've got a bunch of images in here. And if I do the length of this and do it again, I see now that the number has doubled. Great. So that means that I actually have some images that I can work with. So since I have images, I can run a loop and grab those images. Really simple. So I'm going to do images equals to an empty list, and we're going to go ahead and iterate through that list. So I'll say for I in soup or Soup dot find all img. So same call as up here, basically. We're going to loop through all of those. I'm going to go ahead and print out I first because we want to see what comes back from that. I already know what comes back from it, so I'm going to go ahead and say src equals to I, and we want to get the dictionary value, so the actual key value pair using the key of source, and that will give us the value that that actually stands for, and then we'll just do images.append src. After that's done, we're going to go ahead and print out images. This is not going to be a whole lot different than what we see here, although it will be slightly different. So let's go ahead and do this. Just go ahead and copy these, paste it in the terminal, and we print out images. And this is what we see. We now see URLs that are actually coming through here, right? So we're actually seeing the source that's coming through. We're going to go ahead and stop right here and pick it up in the next one.